Hello everyone, dear Autogefühl fans. Thank you very much for the latest comments and also thank you very much for the latest thumbs up. And today we're continuing, well, with rather cold conditions, and it's starting to get rainy and muddy in Germany, at least for our reviews here we do right here. But there are also great cars for these kind of conditions, and this one is kind of the old school pickup, the Nissan Navara or Nissan Frontier as you call it in the US. The other Nissan SUVs, for example Juke facelift, all new Nissan Qashqai, all new Nissan X-Trail, they all move towards this modern SUV movement and do not have these kind of great off-road capabilities anymore. But this one is still in the game for that. So we will be very excited because we have some small and soft off-road scenes here today. But let me first give you a small introduction from this car. This one is still from 2005, so soon there will be the new Nissan Navara or new Nissan Frontier. We are expecting that one for next year, but so far, well, there's been a facelift in 2010, so it's a rather old car from the basic version, but it has still some advantages because it's also pretty simple and easy. Starting here with the exterior, we got a very massive front grille for this truck, and I really like it because a pickup or a truck has to be strong. I think it's the classic Nissan design, but I think it's just the right one. Also very robust from the materials we see, and also from the plastic here. So a pickup, it's no problem if it's just plastic here, I think. And then when we move on to the side profile, where there isn't so much special stuff here to say to the design because it is really the classic pickup or truck design. We got here with a platinum version these side steps here, which also adds some more design features. I like that very much. And then this is the double cabin. There's also the king cabin. But the king cabin is not bigger than the double cabin. This one is actually the longer cabin. The king cabin has suicide doors and is shorter for sitting in the rear compartment. This one offers more space for the passengers, but also less for the loading area then. The total length of the car always stays as 5.30 meters, but then the length of the loading area is shortened when you have the double cab. And it is right now, we got 1.50 meters of the length of the loading area here. And if you pick the smaller cabin in the front, you got about 1.90 meters if you want to transport really long stuff, or maybe your motocross bike or something like that. To put those things tight, we got some attachments here that you can, for example, put something over a net or something like that, so that's very practical. And everything here is also very robust, so you can just put anything on here. So very good if you got a special hobby, for example, and need to transport your stuff, or if you're maybe a big gardener or something like that and need to put the green trash on here. So that's also very practical. By the way, to open the hatch, it's also very old-fashioned. So this one is the opening now. It's also no problem, for example, to sit on here, that a pickup has to do this. And then we can close it again and just turn the key, and then it's safe again. I'm quite happy because the evening sun is still coming out now, and I'm also quite happy about this engine. This one here is a 2.5 liter diesel. It's a very classic diesel engine. This one here has 190 horsepower. There's also a version with 144 horsepower here in Europe. And there's also the 3 liter diesel with 230 horsepower, so the very strong diesel engine. In the US, of course, you still got the petrol engines. Here, only diesel play a role. And this one, I think, well, you got enough torque. I had no problem with it. The consumption is a little bit above 10 liters of diesel per 100 kilometers. So I think that's quite okay. We got a 5-speed automatic gearbox here, which I'm also quite satisfied with, so nothing to moan about there. And I think it just gives you, well, a very relaxed driving. From the sound, okay, it's a rather old diesel, so you have this typical diesel noise still, but if you're driving such a car, I think it's not such a problem. About the interior, everything is pretty basic. You got a lot of black and hard plastic. You shouldn't expect more from a pickup, at least at the moment. But of course, if you compare it to the competitors, for example the Volkswagen Amarok, well, this is a newer car and it's very much better here in the interior. This one is still really an old car. Well, some people do like it because, for example, also the climate functions are pretty easy. You know, improve it, warmer, colder, you get along with it pretty fast. The steering wheel actually quite nice, also good to handle. It has an electronic assistance, so it's not too hard to steer it, but you always need kind of one circle more, because you know it's still this kind of old school pickup. You shouldn't expect a modern city car. I think it will be improved in the new version, because also if you compare it here to other newer pickups, for example the VW Amarok, it's also easier to turn here. Also everything else, for example, we got some, you know, rubber pipes here for the rear view camera. This is also just additionally attached. Also I can show you quite soon, like the microphone is also additionally attached in the center cockpit. This one here is the platinum version, so no, not the basic version. We got, for example, a glass roof here, which is quite nice. Also when you're driving like 50 kilometers an hour, and so it adds light to the room, and it's always a nice feature to have. In general, I mean, everything you see here is not quite strong, but just practical indeed. And also for the cup holders, everything is hold to be practical, and then I think that's also fine for this kind of car. I can show you something more about the multimedia system, and I'm not a friend of this Pioneer multimedia system. It's I'm not sure if you got the same one in the US. You probably do not have the same one in the US. I was really annoyed by it because some functions, they do not work immediately. I have to search them. I try to connect the iPhone and get the Bluetooth audio streaming to run for like half an hour, and like with a third time it finally worked. Also the GPS, you search where and what. It is with a touchscreen, yes. You got certain buttons, and you can take a closer look at here. You got a home button where you usually find everything, GPS, telephone and audio video. Then you use the touchscreen. It's not too fast, but it's still okay. There's one function I argue about, because you cannot put a new destination while driving the car. That is a safety feature, kind of, that you don't get distracted while driving. But I think, I mean, I was on the motorway and had to enter a new destination. What should I do? Stop the car and go to the side of the motorway? That's even more dangerous than putting in an address. I had to call someone. Okay, where do I get to that address? And well, I don't think it's a good solution. I had it, okay, Bluetooth telephone, but I think the GPS destination search should always be on. I'm against reading emails and Facebook via the new multimedia systems, but this one should actually work. So, and finally, we take just a look at the instruments. They're just basic, as you are used to that from the cars like that, 10 years old. But I think it's just very practical interior. Nothing to moan about too much besides of the GPS. The support of the seats, well, they are basic textile seats. It's generally comfortable because you sit upright, but especially when you're taller, I'm whatever 1.90 meters on almost. The seats are very, very short, and I would moan about that because you got a lot of space here under your knees. Very, very short seats, so nothing for large Europeans. I think that one is lacking here. So that's in the front, and now we also take a look at the rear. So the space in the rear compartment is indeed limited, although we have the double cab, because the panoramic roof makes us lose some of the headroom, and we got a small bump in here kind of. So in the rear I got a little bit more space, almost like your head fits in here. It's quite kind of funny, but you don't feel too comfortable with it. Also the legroom is when we got the seat well, not too much in the front here now. It's also a little bit limited knee room, and again I must say the seats are too short, especially for tall people. The seats are way too short, I must say. So they didn't think about tall people when building this car. Okay, well, you couldn't sit here. I wouldn't do it like with long distances, but if you maybe need this car for work, for example, and need to carry your fellow workers to the construction site or whatever, that does work fine. But I wouldn't recommend a long travel for adults here in the back. The rear view camera is integrated in the rear mirror. That is kind of US style, and I'm more used to rear view cameras that are integrated in the central GPS unit. I'm not sure what I really should think about that. It's quite small. Okay, well, it's very important to have it because the car is 5.30 meters long in total. And you also see the rear ending of the car. That's very good because you don't touch anything that is behind the car then. But still, I would rather prefer if it would be in the central GPS unit because it's kind of small, and when the light is coming from the back side, it's also very irritating with the rest of the rear mirror. Driving on the road, well, because you got a huge long suspension, it's also quite comfortable. So also good for long rides here in the front compartment. I said with a steering wheel, it's easy to steer, but see, if you steer, not much happens. So you have to go around one more time if you got very sharp corners. So, but you get used to it, that you need more steering in general, so that's not a problem. So, but in general, you got a very relaxing ride here on the streets, and you really profit from this comfortable seating position. Just the exception that they're quite short, the seats. But as I said in the beginning, this car is still for off-road riding, and so we're here again on our soft off-road riding track. And then it's also good that the steering wheel can be adjusted in very slow proportions. We also have an advantage here when riding off-road. Now again we are going very slowly. In general, this car starts with the rear wheel drive, so basically rear wheel driven. Well, I wouldn't say it's sporty because of that on the road. But still, well, you don't feel such a big difference when the pickup is now front or rear driven, at least on the road. But off-road it can actually make a difference. But of course, we can also make it an all-wheel drive car. I can show you the function quite soon now. And it's also possible to lock the differentials. I will also show you that. In general, now we've feeling the first bumps. I think it's still quite comfortable because you got the long suspension waist really, and everything is just shaking a bit, and that's also always very funny when driving such a pickup truck. I think it's just a bit amusing because you're always shaking a bit also when driving on the road, and that makes this special driving experience of such a car. Now it is getting more slippery, and so we change our off-road settings. I said this was just the two-wheel drive, wheel-wheel drive, and then we can change to four-wheel drive. This one has 50-50 then. 50% of torque in the front, 50% in the rear. You can also switch to that during driving. You just have to lift the throttle that it actually switches. And then we push and turn. There's the off-road gear reduction. It's for low, for low. You can also push it here when you're in D mode or when driving, but it won't change. So you have to put the car in neutral. We also heard that one actually. And then the off-road gear reduction is active. And we got more support at low speeds, for example, if we're going up a steep hill. And then, of course, you need it in every off-road car. There's also, you can't see it right here because also on the left side there's a key to lock the rear differential. So these are all the features you need for off-road riding. And so we're gonna have some more fun here in the mud. There are more practical cars for the city, of course, but it's always also nice to have a car you can really go off-road with, and you have seen it on the pictures, even if you only kind of soft off-road here now. It's just a lot of fun always to slide around, to feel that you can go everywhere, and also just here at the hill, you just stop at the hill and then just continue, and no problem. Because got the all-wheel drive 50/50, also with off-road gear reduction. It's so easy to go off-road, even if you're not an off-road expert with this car. So if you're living in the countryside, maybe, and got some cattle or whatever, this one is still a very clever pick for you, and it's still such a robust car. And then you just come to the next city side. Some people look at us. Did he really drive there with the car? You see, there's some guy standing in there. You see, he's wondering where we're coming from. And yes, actually, we came from the off-road area. Hello. So that's how an off-road tire and a pickup tire should actually look like. So this is a proof that we had a lot of fun here, especially off-road with a Nissan Navara or Frontier. And it's still the right pick if you really need a rough car and maybe got some off-road tracks, small off-road tracks in the countryside, and if you really need the loading area for all the stuff you want to do, for example with your hobby. We are also expecting, as I said in the beginning, a new version of that one here next year. We are also looking forward to that one then, and still I must say it's all you really need from a pickup truck. It's nothing special, nothing too modern, but just if you look at the outside and then what you get, it's just you get what you expect, and that I think is the special thing about this car still. So thank you very much for watching us, and we see you at the next episode, I hope.